Well, hello, and welcome to Daily Distinction. Yeah, I'm kind of playing around with some of the technology here today. Hi, and hello, and hello. So, pretty wild, huh? I'm digging this, and good that you are here. Thank you for being here. Okay, all right. Let's go to the main thing here. How's everybody doing today? I've been working on the studio here, and we've had some technical issues, so I hope you can hear me. But we're working on it. So anyway, oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. So the thing that I had there, I'm set up 3 cameras, and really got 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras working. And hi, Talene, and thanks again, Mike. So just trying to, yeah, Sherry, they gave me an unlimited budget for the studio, and I'm trying to exceed it, right? But I am. I'm having a blast, Scott. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Well, one of the things that this allows me to do on this is, for example, when I'm doing a seminar, I could put a note there and keep notes, if I could write, and like outline like that as we're going through, or show you different things or different aspects. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, just trying to work, and we're developing some coaching and training programs that are going to be virtual programs that you can watch. So as we're doing that, trying to expand the ability of the studio to get, I forgot to get rid of my drum seat there as I was putting stuff together. So there you go. Hey, Bruce, great to see you. I've got to get back with you too. I look forward to being with you on your broadcast as well. Thank you for the invitation. I'll get that done here very shortly. Charles, great to see you. It's not a show till you're on here from Silicon Valley. So we got folks from one end of the country to the other. So thank you very much for being here. Thanks to everybody for joining here today on Daily Distinction, an important topic today, but I had to show you what I've been playing with here. It's been kind of cool as we're trying to, the world is changing. And you've heard me say that I'm not crazy about the word pivot, right? Because pivot means you turn your back to something, and I'm certainly not turning my back to speaking, but I got to be more open in terms of, how I'm creating content here. And we're preparing a program, got several programs coming up. One is we've done some research into what are events going to be like in the future. Is it ever coming back? And it is, but it's coming back differently. There's different events, and how they're going to happen is going to be very, very different. So putting a program together to help meeting professionals and even speakers be better prepared for what they have to do to meet the needs of the post-pandemic event. So working on that. And then also Larry Winger, Randy Pennington, and I have the Ultimate Business Summit that's coming up in August. It's going to be virtual this year. So trying to get everything ready so that the virtual event is a knockout. And then I've got some other things that are coming up. We're putting them together, so it's too soon to talk about, but we really appreciate your input and involvement in that. So yes, there we go. And Brian, hey, great seeing you on this Thursday afternoon. Man, I don't know about you, but it seems the week has flown by. So it's been crazy. And starting tomorrow, customer experience expert Dan Genghis joins us. Dan is a very, very cool guy, and he's going to be talking about the customer experience. That's a little bit of what we're talking about today, not entirely, but a little bit of what we're talking about today, because it's what disconnects you from customers. But some of you aren't involved in a specific business, so it might be something that's disconnecting you from people that you care about, whether it's in your church or your synagogue or mosque or whatever there, perhaps, whether it disconnects you from people in your family, whatever it might be. One of the things that I've researched in the past, and one of the things I've studied, is what disconnects us from the people that really matter. Now, in business, obviously, that's our customers. whether it's external customers, the people that buy our products and services, or whether it's internal customers. And that's how I define our colleagues, our team, the people that work with us. So what disconnects us from internal and external customers? And, it might even be, I think, one of the things I've always believed is that the principles that work for us in business work for us at home. And many of the principles that work for us at home work for us in business. Why do I say that? Because it's all about people. It's all about people. And the way that we connect with and deal with people is going to be the driving force in how we connect with everybody. So that's part of what we have to understand and what we have to deal with is how we are dealing with people. Brian, you're too kind. I appreciate that. Thank you. Maybe we may be doing something like that later on this year, Bruce. So I don't know how big it's going to be, but we may be looking at doing something like that. And that's the great thing in today's world is we can do it, virtually. You can have it on your laptop. So what's the primary thing that disconnects you? Well, over this shoulder, you see a book I wrote 15 years ago called What Customers Really Want. And we worked on updating the book as well. And part of what we discovered is what we found that customers really want then is essentially the same as what they want now. There's no difference. You may find that very surprising, but in fact, it's true. What customers really want is the same. Now, the how may be changing. The how may be becoming different, but the why is not. The why customers want what they want is absolutely still the same, no matter what. The fundamental thing that disconnects us in business is called a product focus versus a personal focus. Picture, if you will, you go to the car lot. And while you are at the car lot, they talk to you about the car. What do they say about the car? Here's the size of the engine. Here's some of the features. Here's the what we have in terms of a score on safety. And they start describing to you all the things about the car. And they don't really ask you much about you. Yeah, they can't wait to get you out on the lot and start showing you the cars. Is there a particular model that you're thinking of? Huh? And they don't really ask us too much about us. Many of you know, and I've mentioned here before, that my biggest client right now is Volkswagen Australia. So it's all the Volkswagen brands. It's Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, on and on and on. And, it's really interesting because the dealers that are doing best are the dealers who care the most. We call this a clue. What a coincidence, right? The people that care the most are the ones who are doing the best. And that's the fundamental difference between a product focus and a personal focus, is that with the product focus, we focus on what we have to sell or what we have to talk about. With the personal focus, we're very concerned about what they want and what they desire and what they need. But there's reasons in human psychology why this is so important. And that's why it's critical whether we're talking about a customer in terms of a business or whether we're talking about a customer in terms of somebody that we're trying to get our viewpoint or our beliefs or our thinking across to. The principle's the same. And so part of the reason that we focus on the product or the issue or whatever is it's easier. Human beings take the path of least resistance. You with me on that? Human beings take the path of least resistance, which is why diet books sell so incredibly well. Remember the scene? There's something about Mary and what was it? He had 7-minute abs. He was going to blow away the competition that had 8-minute abs because he was going to get 7-minute abs. And then Ben Stiller says, well, what if somebody comes out with 6-minute abs? And the guy goes, are you crazy? You can't do abs in 6 minutes. Remember that scene? Why was he focusing on the product? And what was his hope for the product? The customers would find it easy. He could describe it easier. So if I'm talking about the car, I only have to learn one thing, that car. But if I focus on the customer, I've got to learn something about every customer that comes in. And that's harder. That's more difficult. I've got to be interested. I've got to be engaged instead of performing the same spiel, the same pitch about the car. I gotta ask you about you. I gotta learn about you. And then I have to change and tailor my conversation based upon you rather than based on what I'm trying to sell, what I'm trying to communicate. So because human beings take the path of least resistance, we tend to focus on our issue or our product or our intent for the conversation rather than focusing on and helping and knowing somebody else. Brian, question I ask myself every day is, how deep is my relationship with all my customers and everybody in my world? If they're not the deepest, you got work to do. You nailed it. You are exactly right. You know, the deeper the engagement, you can track it, you can graph it. The deeper the engagement, the longer the relationship, the higher the lifetime value, the greater the experience, on and on and on. And it all begins with exactly what you identified. How deep is the relationship with your customers? Yeah, Charles, Tony Alessandra, my great friend, Tony Alessandra, wrote a book many years ago called The Platinum Rule. He's the guy that coined the phrase, in fact. And the Platinum Rule, if you don't know what the Platinum Rule is, that Charles is pointing out, let me explain it. Tony came up with the idea that the Golden Rule, there's a version of it taught in every great religion and every great tradition. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat other people the way you'd like to be treated. But the aha for Tony was simply this: not everybody wants to be treated the way I want to be treated. Right? I mean, you know people that don't want to be treated the way that you're treated. And you can treat them the way you'd like to be treated, and it still leaves them cold. So Tony came up with the idea of the Platinum Rule, which is, if you think about it, what it's really true to is the spirit of the Golden Rule. That's what it captures, the spirit of the Golden Rule. And Tony's Platinum Rule is this: do unto others the way they want to be done unto. In other words, I care so much about you. I'm not going to treat you the way I want to be treated. I'm going to treat you the way you want to be treated. I care so much about you. I'm going to treat you the way that you want to be treated. But notice what pressure that brings. It means I've got to know how you want to be treated. It means I've got to do a little bit of work to understand how the way that you want to be treated, how I can build that into what I'm doing. So the Platinum Rule is even more focused on the other than it is on ourselves. Yeah, what we do for a customer and who they perceive us to be will last much longer than what was sold to them. Yeah, and Brian, you've nailed it. That's exactly how you get referrals, isn't it? It's exactly how you get repeat business, isn't it? Is that, it's the Maya Angelou point about they won't remember what you made them think, but they will remember how you made them feel. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, is that how you make them feel is in part who they perceive you to be. How you make them feel is in part who they will perceive you to be. If you're kind and caring and they feel that, they perceive you to be kind and caring. If you're abrupt and product focused, they consider you to be self-centered and not really that concerned about them. So that's part of what we have to focus on. Sonia, great to see you. Yes, that extra effort is worth it in the end. Absolutely. That extra effort is worth it in the end. So what we've got to do is to understand, who was it? I want to give the proper credit. I think it was Wayne Dyer. Ken, confirm this for me. I think it was Wayne Dyer that said it's never crowded on the extra mile, right? Never crowded on the extra mile. And that's what most folks won't do. Sonia, as you know, right? They won't stand for themselves and be clear about who they are, and then go the extra mile for the customers that are good fit. So when you get that good fit, you're willing to go the extra mile for those customers. and treat them the way they want to be treated and to deliver them in a manner that they want to be delivered. Hey guys, I see that my pal Ken just came on, so I'm going to show off here just a second for Ken. So hi Ken, how you doing? Good to see you. What's going on? There you go. So anyway, I had to jump around like that. Let's see. Not sure if it's him or Jim Rohn. And Charles says maybe it was Earl Nightingale. It very well could be. But nonetheless, it's important insight. Dwayne, if you don't listen to the customer, you offer the same thing as everyone else, right? You're not distinctive. That's exactly it. It's not distinctive. Thanks, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. Right? Hey, at least I told you I was showing off before I did it. Right? I was very clear about the fact that yes, I am showing off. So I had to admit that. I'm working. Again, I was telling earlier, if you just joined, we've been working on the studio because we are going to be doing more coaching and consulting and training virtually and finding different ways to do that and trying to make it, as good a quality as we can. So Jeffrey, we're getting there. Thank you. We've been working on that. So, and so when I say that it's easier, the other aspect of it is it's easier to understand our issue rather than their needs. Hey, my issue is I got to sell something, right? If you think about it, it goes back to how we used to shoot down planes. No, I'm serious. This goes back to how we used to shoot down planes. In World War II, for example, how did they shoot down planes? Well, what would happen is, for example, if the British wanted to shoot down the German planes, they didn't have the ability to, radar and connect and the things, GPS and the things we have now. So what did they do? They filled the sky with ammunition. It was called flak. And they filled the sky with so much ammunition, the enemy plane literally ran into the ammunition of the other side. And that's how many people have communication now. They just fill social media, or they fill with ads or whatever, and how they try to sell is they just throw so much out there. Sooner or later, a customer is going to run into it, and they find somebody that wants to buy. How engaging do you think that is? How much repeat business do you think that will get? How much do you think that is enticing to a customer? I'm just throwing this stuff out here, and hopefully somebody will run into it and buy it. Yeah, that's a heck of a strategy, isn't it? Huh? And one of the things I talked about in the book Iconic is we always hear sales is a numbers game, and that's correct. It is. The problem is we don't know all the numbers. See, if you throw that stuff out there and customers run into it and want to buy it, you think, boy, if I keep throwing more stuff out there, more people run into it, I'll sell more. But you never look at the flip side, which is how many people are so alienated by it, you'll never get a chance to sell or serve them because they've blocked you. They never want to hear from you again. So you never get another chance. That's the problem for many folks that think, oh, if I just throw more stuff out there, I'm going to... It's like, I mentioned this previously, but it's like if we came up with a vaccine for COVID-19. Wonderful, right? Everybody thinks, yeah, great, take the vaccine. And you find out that, 8 out of 10 people get the vaccine, don't get COVID-19. But the problem is half the people that get the vaccine have a heart attack. Now it's not so attractive. But you got to know both numbers to know whether or not you want the vaccine. So what we have done in sales is to look at one side of the equation. The more we throw out there, the more it's going to hit. But we never think about what about that person that doesn't like it and they block us and we never get another chance to talk to them. And they might have been a great prospect, even a higher long-term value prospect than some of those folks that's running into our junk, the flack that we're throwing out. we try to understand our issue rather than their needs because it's harder. Let me give you an example that proves this. We test employees on product knowledge, but we never have a test on how well they know their customers. If I had an automobile dealership, I would line up the sales professionals and I would say, hey, here's an idea. Everybody think of the last person that bought a car from you. Got it? Okay. How many kids do they have? What's the spouse's name? Let's see how you answer that. You know your product. Do you know your customers? That's really, really important. Right? Features and benefits don't work when the page customer is on outcome and results. Yep. Totally different radio stations. Yeah, absolutely. And where are they tuned into? Where are they tuned into? Oh, Colleen, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that, and really glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. So here's a question you need to ask yourself. Years ago, there was a guy, and he's no longer, the company has been sold, and he's no longer with the company, and he's retired. Got his own business now, but he's a great guy and a wonderful friend. And I used to say about Bruce, Duckhorn Cabernet is his favorite wine. And I would have other people in my business say, well, of course you know that. Look how much money he's spending with you. He's your best customer. If he's your best customer, of course you know what his favorite wine is. By the way, do you know your best customer's favorite drink? Do you know how they take their coffee? And I used to tell folks that misses the point. It's because I knew things like what his favorite wine is that he became my best client. It's because I knew him so well that he became my favorite client and my best client at the time. So I think sometimes we get it backwards. It's like the old Earl Nightingale story of the guy sitting in front of a wood stove saying, "Okay, if you give me heat, then I'll put in wood." It's like driving your car to Disney World and saying, "Hey, okay," saying to the car, "You get me to Disney World, and then I'll fill it up with gas." No, it doesn't work that way. You got to put the fuel in first, and the fuel that you need to put in is the customer relationship. Absolutely. Jeffrey, you're right. We don't measure, test, and train on the most important stuff because it's too difficult. It's too outside of what we typically do. It's not been the way we've always done it, right? It's not been the way we've always done it. Yep, the person with the strongest, deepest network of relationships. I could not agree with that more, Jeffrey. That's fantastic. And Charles, you're right. There's that radio station. We've heard about that. Zig used to talk about that. Everybody has their radio station tuned to WIIFM. What's in it for me? And if you're not broadcasting to that station, then you're not really getting through. Hey, Kirby, great to see you. Thanks. I appreciate that. That's it's something we ought to do in every business, right? How well do you know your customer? We quiz them on the product knowledge. We quiz them on the technical knowledge. We don't quiz them on their customers. Yeah, Harvey McKay's 64 questions is a great one too, Phil. Harvey McKay, what a great influence. Making his business your business helps you win in the end. Yeah, and Sonia, you're exactly right. And it becomes a win-win, right? It helps us all win. So what do we do? Well, my suggestion is don't leap into solving until you first spent time connecting. We don't want your answer till we know we've been heard. I think that's one of the challenges that we're facing in our society, in our culture right now. Right? I mean, you see what's going on with Black Lives Matter, and you see what's going on with racial justice and harmony. And I think a lot of us, and by us, I mean whites, we feel horrible about what's happened. We sincerely want to help. And so we jump in and we want to solve the problem. And I think we haven't done enough listening yet. And even if we had a great solution, Who wants to hear it unless you know that you've been heard first? So this works in our society, it works in our culture, and it works with what you do. People don't want your solution until they know that you've connected and heard their problem. So sometimes that means in our drive to sell, in our drive to close, right? I hear about a closing all the time. In our drive to sell and in our drive to close, we alienate the very people that we want to influence. And we've got to be more careful about that. Hey, Kirby, going to come have less of, yeah, that's a really interesting point, Kirby. The company grows and you have less of a connection with your customers because of that, and you rely on your employees. And many times, and I'm guilty of this in a position I had prior to this, we get guilty of abdicating our responsibility to our employees who we really haven't coached and trained enough on how important that function is. They know it's important to do the job right. Whatever the job might be for whatever the organization might be, they know enough to do the job right. But they don't realize how this other aspect is so critical to the long-term success and survival of the business and the long-term relationship we hope to have with our customers. And it kind of goes back to the Clayton Christensen aspect of the innovator's dilemma, which is we innovate and then it grows and grows and grows until the very things that made us successful in the beginning end up creating our downfall in the end. Not predicting that by a long shot, but that becomes one of the aspects that we have to focus on. And great to see you. I'm really glad you're here. People will go out of their way to do business with those they know, like, and trust. They don't know how much you know until they know how much you care about them. Absolutely right. I love that, Ann. Thank you. Thank you for that. And there you go. If you're not connected with them, how do they know whether or not they like and trust you? If all I'm doing is cutting to the bottom line, then how in the world do I ever know if somebody really realizes that I care? Yeah, I love that line from my pal Jeffrey. Brian, I love that line. Don't take the shortcut, take the long cut. That's going to get you where you need to go. More sales are lost by selling skills. Yep, Jeffrey is so on target with that, right? We teach selling skills. All right, now I'm going to move you to this and to that. I'm going to, in the early days of my speaking business, I used to do sales training. I had the sales training class I did for a company in Indianapolis. And, I went through the whole process of sales, the sales process. And, I wish I could remember the number. There were like, here, now I'm going to teach you 47 closing techniques. Well, is there anything worse today than closing techniques? Here's the Ben Franklin close. Here's the assumption close. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better for you? And our customers now are pretty smart. They know those techniques too, and they almost laugh at us when we try to use those sales skills and make that happen. So crazy. Owen, coming from you, Owen. This is Owen Video right here. He is Mr. Video. So. That is awfully kind, my friend. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, Richard, great to see you. Yeah, it works in relationships too, right? I mean, we need to date a little bit before we get married. Right? We gotta connect and build the relationship, and that's what's so important. Yeah, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, Charles. You're absolutely right. That is it. And how do you write the prescription until you've gotten to know the patient and really understand what the problem is? There you go, Kirby. It's opportunity. I'll talk more with you about that. By the way, maybe you got on a little late. We were talking about the Ultimate Business Summit's coming up, and that's part of why we're doing the studio and making that so the way it is. So I'm going to leave you with a word as we're just about out of time. And here's the word of the day. It's empathy. You could put all that we're talking about today in one category, and that's the category of empathy. Sympathy is something completely different. It's feeling sorry for somebody, right? When you look at what's happening in the world right now, when we look at what Black Lives Matter and that, I'm taking it out of business and talking about the important issues of the world. They don't want sympathy, right? I mean, the people that are out there protesting, sympathy is not what they want. They want empathy. They want you to understand. They want you to care. They want you to feel. They don't want you to feel sorry. What does that do? But when you care and when you have empathy and when it really matters, that's when you do things that make a difference. The same is true with our customers, with our families, with our organizations that we are part of. We don't want sympathy. We want empathy. We want to know that somebody cares, that you care. And when you care, guess what happens? You make the effort to understand. The effort to understand. As Stephen Covey said, seek first to understand before trying to be understood. When we make the effort first to understand others, it's so much more important than trying to be understood. So you're right. It's a word that most of us need to use and feel more often. I love how you said that. Not just use more often, but feel more often. Brian, you're right. You're right. It can't be faked. It's real. Hey, Deb, my old college pal. I shouldn't say, we're not old. My long time ago college pal. Yeah, Clayton Christensen was so brilliant. His passing was sad. It's he talk about insight. My goodness, the insight and the brilliance that he had, just unbelievable. Well, that does it for us today on Daily Distinction. I hope we've got a few words to think about. And hey, Jeffrey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. That's so kind. And thank you for letting me show off what we're working on, what we're doing here a little bit too. I really appreciate it. Hey, tomorrow the guest is Dan Gingiss, customer service expert, customer experience guru is going to be the guest. I hope you'll tune in. It's going to be a great discussion with a really good guy, Dan Gingiss. I'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow on the next Daily Distinction.